Well, how many, and we've covered that, but how many Homeland Security state heads have been caught being pedophiles? I mean, we have to understand, how do you get people that'll steal bank accounts, rob, torture, lie, listen to people illegally? Well, because they're criminals. Some are money launderers, some drug dealers, but most of them are perverts. And that's what we face, is a legion of pot-bellied perverts with automatic weapons. But the good news is the police and the military are starting to wake up here. Are you seeing some of the police wake up in your area?
Massively, Alex. The times I get arrested, there's always a few policemen in the station that come to my cell, shake my hand, tell me I'm doing great work, that they are also concerned. There are good people in the military, there's good people in the police, and the job of the Love Police is to communicate with as many police as possible in London, give them hugs, remind them of their humanity, and also remind them what kind of world that they're going to be bringing in for their children and grandchildren. So it's not just a resistance thing, it's also a reminder to people of just how glorious and special they are.
And that we're all humans, and we shouldn't serve the potbellies. If you want to go to the Love Police website, it's the letter C, Veitch.org. We appreciate him joining us. We're going to be taking your calls coming up some in the next segment about political activism, what's happening in the world, any news items you want to mention. I'm going to hit some other news stories as well. We've got some really important news coming up on the financial front in the next hour with a political researcher and a financial author dealing with state banks, taking the power of currency and giving it back to the people, the power of credit. And dealing with some of the state banks around the country. This is a short segment, though. Charlie, we've got a bunch of these videos. We can play them here, but they're all up on your website. The reason I've got you here is that you guys are very effective. Your videos are getting hundreds of thousands of views together, and it's another example of not just We Are Change or the Tea Parties or InfoWar groups or 9/11 truth groups. It's just anybody can be a leader who's willing to stand up and go out, and now you've had others join you. Now you're not out there alone, and it's gaining steam. Another example of how resistance is victory.
Absolutely, Alex. I think one thing's important for people to know. You know the film The Matrix, how there's Neo, the character played by Keanu Reeves? That's an anagram of the One. And when everyone realizes that they are the One, they have that connection to the source themselves, to whichever religion or spirituality you believe in. You are an infinite power, and you have nothing to be scared of from these pathetic, controlling tyrants. And one thing that we like to do at the Love Police is to put these videos out there. We never force people to watch them, but it just shows people that you can do this and survive and be happy and have a great life just by being a decent human being. And to me, being a decent human being is standing up against anyone who attempts to destroy and poison my fellow human beings, and including me. For many years, I was living under the mass hypnosis illusion that things were okay. I was a big believer in the mainstream media. I even joined the armed forces after September the 11th for the British Army because I wanted to go out there and kill terrorists because I believed it. And you don't know how upset and angry I am. And I'm not sure yet I'll be able to forgive those people who lied to me and who lied to all those other young men and women who joined the armed forces thinking they're fighting for freedom when in fact they're fighting for Halliburton.
What woke you up?
I think it was a combination of luck in that I lost my job. I didn't quit. I just lost my job because the economy went bad. And I've always been a bit of a rebel since a young age. You know, I never really listened to authority. I was very anti-authoritarian. But I think it was just maybe what people like David Icke talk about. There is a general vibrational change happening in the world, as Brzezinski says, a general awakening. And I'm just lucky that it came to me before I got sent out to Iraq to go and shoot innocent people.
Absolutely. I mean, here's an example. Did you see that video 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago? Out of Pennsylvania, where it says, "We're watching you, Tom. Nice house, nice car, Tom. You owe the state $3,000. We know where you are. We're coming to get you." And I'm seeing articles every day of people losing their houses for parking tickets or for water bills. And everybody I know who is not doing well financially all over the country is getting calls now where collection agencies for the government are threatening you with jail if you don't pay them. The taxes are all going up, but the infrastructure is falling apart because almost all the money is going to the bankers like it's Nigeria or Argentina. And here's one out of the Huffington Post. Woman's home confiscated over small water bill. They now take your house over a $362 bill. I mean, if this isn't tyranny, I don't know what it is.
It is total tyranny. But one thing I can say, I'm always an optimist, Alex. I like to always look on the bright side. But these mistakes they made, this tyranny they impose, it wakes up people at a much more accelerated pace. And what I think, it's the bankers that caused this financial crisis. And if it's the bankers trying to take your house, what people need to do en masse is start barricading themselves, getting themselves able to mount a defensive front against anyone who attempts to come to their house and pick them out. And I also think people need to stand together. There was actually a writer from Soviet Russia called Solzhenitsyn, and he said that when they were coming round for the mass roundups of political dissidents, what he says is that they didn't value freedom enough. People should have set up ambushes in staircases using baseball bats or hammers or pots and pans. And he said that if people did a massive rise up, the state does not have enough thugs to round up hundreds of thousands of people if a few hundred of them are starting to fight back.
Yeah, guys, print me the Alexander Solzhenitsyn quote. It starts with Alexander Solzhenitsyn, "Oh, how we burned in the camps later, wishing that when the NKVD that arrested, in the case he was talking about in Leningrad, more than half the population and took many of them to their deaths." But according to the government today, that's a good thing to be taken away to your death. And here in the U.S., they're openly proposing arresting people, the Pentagon, with no charges, no nothing, secretly stripping you of your citizenship and disappearing you into a black site, into a black hole, while Salon calls me up saying, "Oh, Alex, you're making up the FEMA camps," as they openly admit they're building the camps. Long segment coming up. We'll cover Solzhenitsyn's quote and a lot more. We're talking to the Love Police. Well, it's outrageous. Calderon has now given his speech to the Congress. I have the text of it. Paul Watson has an article up on prisonplanet.com. He attacked the Second Amendment. Not only is a foreign dictator who wasn't elected, that's on record, who set up a total police state, a narco-terrorist state that's waging a war against other cartels that aren't laundering money through U.S. banks. Not only is he here telling 30 million illegal aliens to politically rise up in our country, a foreign leader with a group of people that see themselves as foreigners, he now wants our Second Amendment and is blaming violence in his repressed country where no citizen can own guns on our Second Amendment. And we are defeating the establishment right now peacefully with political information. That's why Cass Sunstein and Kagan and all these globalists are saying, censor the internet, censor free speech, shut us down. Because they can't get away with this if our voices are being heard. And so they're now coming out, conditioning and acclimating and testing the water, sending up trial balloons to openly shut down free speech. And every time the media calls me, they say, "Are you causing violence? Are you going to cause violence?" Which we're speaking out against violence. But what does it lead to when they say we're going to start arresting you and disappearing you into a gulag or worse, and no one will even know we took you? I mean, that's in the legislation. That's being promoted. And then it leads us to the point of when the secret police are coming to drag you away, then people are going to be forced to physically resist. That's why Oath Keepers is so important. That's why we're reaching out to military and police right now like our lives depend on it, because they do. Listen to this. This is the Alexander Solzhenitsyn. Won the Nobel Prize. Ronald Reagan praised him. For anybody demonizing him, again, this is somebody praised by our government. Of course, that was 25, 30 years ago. Not anymore. He's demonized now. And how we burned in the camps later, thinking, what would things have been like if every security operative, when he went out at night to make an arrest, had been uncertain whether he would return alive and had to say goodbye to his family? Or if, during periods of mass arrest, as for example in Leningrad, when they arrested a quarter of the entire city, some estimates are almost half, but that was in one period. Or if during periods of mass arrest, as for example in Leningrad, when they arrested a quarter of the entire city, people had not simply sat there in their lairs, pawing with terror at every bang of the downstairs door, at every step on the staircase, but had understood that they had nothing left to lose and had boldly set up in the downstairs hall an ambush of a half dozen people with axes, hammers, pokers, or whatever else they had at hand. The organs would very quickly have suffered a shortage of officers in transport, and notwithstanding all of Stalin's thirst, the cursed machine would have ground to a halt if we didn't love freedom enough. And even more, We had no awareness of the real situation. We purely and simply deserved everything that happened afterward. Alexander Solzhenitsyn. So, here's the article. It's up at Infowars.com, PrisonPlanet.com. It's also at GCNlive.com.